Dear friends, Nawid asked me to speak tonight about education, and it's about the topic how much is good. You know, too much pressure is not good in education, too little pressure is also not good. So that will be our topic tonight. The topic of education is my daily topic because I have studied medicine and I'm working in Germany as a psychiatrist for children and adolescents. Friends, I would talk to you and show you part of the presentation. And the topic is children support or overstrain, the trap of pampering. When do we pamper, when we don't pamper? That's a question in every relation. And I would like tonight to show you aspects from psychotherapy or psychology and religion. And as you know, we know each other from, as Vara said, since childhood. And we are all members of the Baha'i faith, so I'm also including some quotations from the Baha'i point of view. There was an article a few months ago in Germany, how to save our children. There is often so much pressure that it is difficult how to help them. I would like to start with a quotation from the International Baha'i Community, a concept of education which I find is very helpful for us to use tonight. An atmosphere has to be preserved where children feel that they are part of the community and participate on their aims. Now bring this to our daily life. If we, at our job, in our working place, in our home, try to create an atmosphere that preserves where other people or children or any relation feel part of it, of the whole thing, and participate. So if that we do, we know what to do. And I have to ask myself, do I create an atmosphere at home that my children, that my partner, that my relatives feel good? Another quotation: if love and agreement are manifest in a single family, that family will advance, become illumined and spiritual. But if enmity and hatred exist within, its destruction and dispersion are inevitable. What good does it make if I'm nice to everybody, but in my own family, I don't create this atmosphere of well-being? And we would like to look a little bit today at this relation between parents and children. You know about the helicopter parents today. We do a lot today for children. We put a lot of energy and money and everything in the children. But the question is, how do we let them develop? How sometimes I can, with too much love, destroy someone. This is a new terminal they say curling parents. It means the parents circle around the children. Now imagine a child is born and raised in a surrounding where you think I am the middle of life. I'm the center of life. This child will have a problem later to understand. On the one hand, I'm the center of life. On the other hand, I'm a small little piece. If we always try to reduce everything for the children that they have no problems, they cannot develop. Look at the muscle. If I don't train it regularly, it gets small. If I don't ask the child to go to its limits, it will not develop to its extent. But we are living in a surrounding where our aim is always to have it nice. Everything should be wonderful. Everything should be nice. The child should have no problems. I would like to show you something from nature. Did you know that a penguin father loses 1/3 of his weight to raise the child? Look at the lion mother and its kids who are playing together beautifully. Look at this alligator with a child in her mouth. You see that? Look how beautiful nature has done it. How loving the relation is. But we have to ask ourselves, what happens in the way that sometimes I see parents in my office or children, I ask them, how is your relation to your parents? They say, we don't see each other anymore. We have no relation. Now we see how important education is in this following quotation. Among the greatest of all services that can possibly be rendered by man to Almighty God is the education and training of children. You know, when you have a plant, you can just water it and it gets water. You can also nourish a plant to fertilize, to clean it, and so on. With children, it's the same. You can just educate them or you can really nourish them. And I want to show you something beautiful which shows what is important in education. A young man asked the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, what should I look for when I'm looking for a girl to marry? Of course, this story is also used on men, not only for women, okay? Both genders. He says, if a girl is beautiful, it's a 0. If a girl is good in household, 0. If she has money, 0. If she has education, 0. If she has a good heart, 1. The young man says, I don't understand. Why is that so? He says, look, if a girl has a good heart, it's a 1. If she has education, it's 0. 1 and 0 is 10. If she is wealthy, it's a 0 more, it's 100. If she is good in household, it's another 0, it's 1,000. And if she's beautiful, it's another 0, it's 10,000. But if the 1 is missing, if the good heart is missing in the beginning, everything is 0. Because if you put the 1 away, everything is again 0. So now we know what is important, it's the heart. But if you look, that we normally look always for education. We want the kids to have good education, but it's also the education of the heart, which is important. But if we are in a surrounding where always money and name and fame and title is important and education, we forget that the heart education, the education of the heart is also important. Look at these 2 birds up there, okay? And see how they develop. In number 1, that's a relation. For example, parents and child. See, number 1, they are coming closer, but they are same size. Number 2, one is getting bigger, one is getting smaller. It could be parents or child, doesn't matter, it's vice versa. Then we have number 3, one is getting bigger, the other is eaten up and getting smaller and eaten up by the big one. And it's included in the middle of the big one. There are some parents who are so big that the child is included in them. Also some children where the parents are included in it. Number 4 is going in different directions. And number 5 is the optimum. They're getting bigger and coming closer, but not too close. So we ask ourselves, what can we do that we have a surrounding, what we read before, that we can develop. Another quotation, a family is a very special kind of community. The members of a family all have these duties and responsibilities towards one another and to the family as a whole. And these duties and responsibilities vary from member to member because of the natural relationships. So we have to ask ourselves, how can we arrange a surrounding for a family, for a community to develop? And it's very interesting that we need a vision. 3 men are working with the stone. One says, I am working with the stone. The middle one says, I am working at this window. And the third one has a vision and says, I'm building a cathedral. So it's up to the vision. So it's very important, what vision do I have of life? Do I want to educate a child just for myself? Or do I want to educate a world citizen? We have the individual. We have the family, we have the community, we have the city, the country, and the humanity. So while I am looking at the child, at the same time, I have to have humanity in my mind. We have to understand my child is not my child. My partner is not my partner alone. We are important. We play an important role, but we are part of society. We are part of the world. If I have that view, it's much easier to embrace the world. It is up to my view of things. Look, there are bus drivers who see that someone wants to get into the bus. The moment they see you, they push the button, they look in your eyes, they smile, and they're happy because the door closes in front of your eye. And there are bus drivers who invite you to their bus as if it is their living room, and they welcome you. So both are bus drivers. One is welcoming you and the other one is not. I decide about the atmosphere I create in my surrounding. I am responsible for the atmosphere I create in my family, in my relation, in my work. Yeah, I want to show you a picture how different levels of things work together on the the development and malformation of a child. We have biological factors, we have psychosocial factors, social factors, and current life circumstances. And they all work together or are formed in the child. In the Baha'i religion, there is a beautiful example of diversity and of the individuality of an individual person. It is said that every human being has a different size of cup in his life. One has a small cup, one has a bigger glass, one has a bucket. It is very individual. Those 4 factors go on that size of pot we have. Those 4 dimensions influence it. But in life, it is important that in the relation of the size of the cup I have, I fill it. Some people have a little cup, but they fill half of it. And it is more than the one who has a bucket and has only filled the bottom of it. If you look on this, we don't have time to look at other people because we are enough involved with ourselves, with our own upbringing and with our own working on our own character and not looking to other people the whole time. And if we have in mind one of the main aspects in the therapy of my method of my father, the transcultural aspect, what we see today, how the world is coming together. Look at us tonight. We are connected so easily, Romania to Germany. We have to understand what Baha'u'llah says. The earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. There is no way around it. Look at Corona. It shows us that we are all together one word. And we have one other aspect which shows us of different religions, that it's called progressive revelation. You see the different religions all with the same aim, always coming together for the betterness of mankind, for the well-being of individuals, and for society. That's very important also to see. This all is helping us to understand, to get a new vision, to get a vision of man. I would like to continue with this following quotation, which I think led me to become a psychiatrist. Regard man as mine, rich of gems of inestimable value. Education can only cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. If you ask me, there are 2 different aspects which are very important in that quotation. Man is good by nature, and education, which means education of parents, and also self-education, psychotherapy and so on, causes it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. So I educate myself or my child to enjoy and have nice life, but also to benefit mankind. Imagine if you walk around and if someone is angry at you, you just think you are a man like a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Then you won't get so angry of people. Another beautiful quotation: ignite a candle of love in every meeting, and with tenderness and rejoice, and cheer ye every heart. Imagine if we put this in as our compass. If we put this as our compass in our mind. Every meeting, I turn on a candle of love, and with tenderness rejoice and cheer every heart. So let's think. Till next Friday, you have every Friday, 1 week, try to enkindle a candle of love in every relation we meet. I would like to show you one of the aspects of positive psychotherapy. It's called the positive interpretation. When we say positive, we normally mean good, but the real translation of positive comes from Latin positum and means for the translation, the actual, the existing, the whole. So positive doesn't mean good. Positive means plus and minus. So which means in every encounter, or everything happens, I always have to think, what is the plus and what is the minus? Meaning, Corona has plus and minus. Imagine, beside all the negative things, we would have never been able to communicate together without this Corona crisis. Be honest, did you know in the beginning of March what Zoom is? I did not know. So in education, we need the positive aspect, meaning that I try You see that here, that I try to encourage, to praise loud and criticize quietly. But what do we do normally? We praise quiet and criticize loud. And normally what do? We criticize loud and praise quietly. But the opposite has to be done. Look at a car, look at a motor. What does a motor need? It needs oil and gasoil. What does a human being need? Love, understanding, encouragement. So that's what we have to try to see. How can we arrange an environment that we can encourage people? In the Baha'i faith, it is said that there are 3 ways of education: the physical education, human social education, and the mental spiritual education. The physical one we all have, the human social we all have, but the spiritual one we often don't have. My father has taken that from the Baha'i faith, but put it in the scientific model. It's called the balance model. It's one of the major aspects of positive psychotherapy. And the balance model says there are 4 dimensions we need in life. And I can only be in balance if I have those 4 aspects in life. One is the body. I need food, I need sleep, I need clothing, I need sports, and so on. But how much sport, with whom, when, how much sleep, that I have to decide myself. I need achievement, I need a work. Some people only work to earn money, other people love to work, they like what they do. I need contacts with other people. How much contact, I can choose myself, but I need contact. I can't say I just go to work and then I don't need anything. We would say, no, that's not enough. I need contact. And I need something else. I need fantasy future. What is fantasy future? The 3 questions of life. Where do I come from? Why am I here? Where do I go? These 3 questions, everybody asks himself at some time in your life. But many people don't get an answer. We will see in a moment what happens if I don't get an answer to that question. But let's look again. So the balance model says, if you are in balance between the body, achievement, contact, and fantasy future, then you are in good shape. And if I'm not in balance, I am more likely to have burnout. We see that here again. We see here the body, achievement, contact, fantasy future. And with the first 3 aspects we know, body, achievement, contact, we understand. But what happens if I don't develop the fantasy future? What happens? What happens when I don't look at that? What happens to a body who doesn't get food? You die. What happens to a soul who doesn't get food? It shrinks. So like the body needs food, our soul needs also food. And we will see in a moment what happens if we don't look at that. And this is very important to have in mind in education of children. In the Western countries, which 2 dimensions do you think are especially important? Can someone unmute yourself and say it? Which 2 aspects are very important in the Western cultures?
Achievement
and body.
Achievement and body. Right. Perfect. That was one of the positive psychotherapist people. Very good. See, body and achievement, right? In the Eastern countries, it is contact and fantasy future. Gabi, how is it in Romania? Which aspects are there? Is it East or West?
It depends on the generation. For our parents' generation, spirituality and achievement, and also contact is very important.
And
New generation is more Western model.
Yeah. And now I want to show you something very interesting. What happens to a culture who lives after the Western style, body and achievement? What happens to that culture? You are in the materialistic path. Everything is materialistic. And what happens to a culture who does the Eastern thing? You get to fatalism. And what we see nowadays in Eastern countries, this upcoming of religion, of misunderstood religion. You fall into the fatalism and fanatism. That is a word which we only have in German. It's called substitute religion, meaning Look at the thing. I want to go back and show you. Go to the fantasy future dimension, okay? If I am hungry and I go to a store, they don't have food. I can't buy food, but I'm still hungry. Although they don't have it, I'm hungry. They don't have it, what I want. The same is with my soul. If I don't get an answer to my questions, where do I come from? Why am I here? Where do I go? Then I am still hungry. And if I don't get the food which I need, I will look for other food. If I don't get an answer in life for the sense of life, I will look for substitute religions, which try to give me the answer of my question, where do I come from? Like extreme sport, a lot of energy into food and nutrition, all about my body and appearance, my title, my work, my money, my contacts, how many friends do I have in Facebook, and things like being a member of a religious sect and so on. So the substitute religion shows us that everyone is in need for a sense of life. So in a holistic view of education, I need to look at all 4 dimensions. The question in life is, as we were talking about, how much or how little, how much energy do I put in children, how much pressure do I do, and how much do I take it out? The last minutes of my talk, I would like to look at that topic. Too much or too little? Can I love someone too much? Yes. With too much love, you suffocate someone. If you give too much sun, you burn. Too little sun, you freeze. Too much water for the plant, it dies. Too little water, it dies too. And that is the problem with education. To find the right measurement, how much energy, how much structure do I need? I would even go further and say in any relation, that is the major problem. How much, how little, how close do I go and how far do I stay in a relation also. Let us use spend the last few minutes on the topic of spoiling and energy, how much, how little, and so on. I want to show you the development phases of many today's children and adolescents. Born as a prince or princess, raised in a castle's dungeon, left into life with lots of deficits. Or more concrete, as a newborn, I was showered with care and presence. As a child, I noticed that I become a disruptive factor in job and daily life. As an adolescent, I was sidelined by money and consumer good. And as an adult, I was accused of not getting my life under control. What is the trap of pampering? The most common way to bring a little child from A to B is to carry him or her or use the buggy. Here happens carriage. The most future-oriented way to let a child move from A to B is to give him or her every possible help for independent moving, different for every age. Here happens support. In the first case, you work instead of the child. That creates a dependency with the time. In the second case, the child acts itself by motivational support that creates independency. What is the definition of the pampering trap? Pampering happens by the fulfillment of life-threatening needs, concretely by too much or too little grant letting, or by inappropriate acting and reacting. Think of the muscle we were talking about in the beginning of the speech. If you don't use the muscle, it becomes weak. If I don't let a child experience himself and his weakness and his borders, he will never develop. Let us look at some people who are more likely to spoil children. What kind of character or situation in life leads us to be spoiling people? Large tendency of harmony, complacency, desire of sympathy, excessively pronounced helpfulness, unfull daily life, personal chronic crisis, extensively pronounced striving for career, too little care time for children, feeling of guilt towards children, strong emotional fluctuations or tensions. These things all lead to the fact that I would spoil someone more than others. In education, I think we always have to ask ourselves these 3 magical questions. I promise you, these questions will help you so much in relationships.
Right.
If in a relation you always mention what you see, then you have the whole time you're in a fight. If you always say what you see. You know, a successful relation is that you sometimes close your eyes and you don't see what you see. Dear friends, before you ask something or say something, always ask yourself the following 3 questions. Do I have to say it? Do I have to say it now? And how do I want to say it? So if you come home and you see that your children are still not in bed, although you have talked to your husband that they have to be in bed by 8, you are angry. And you're right to be angry. But if you in that moment say that, it doesn't help. You will have your husband and the children against you. So do I have to say it in that moment? No. Do I have to say it at some time? Yes. And how do I want to say it? I can think about. So please have those 3 questions always in mind when you are in relation to other people. If you ask me, if this next transparency you really inhale, then you understand what it is all about. And if you understand that, then you know how you educate people. I want to show you a theory. We have 4 different kinds of feeling. We have anger, fear, sadness, and happiness. And now we look at that, of course more, but we mentioned those 4, okay? And now look at them from different points of view. Anger, I will explain to you. Anger leads to freedom, fear to safety, sadness to contact, and all 3 fundamental feelings are necessary for being happy. Happiness, the 4th feeling, only appears when anger, fear, and sadness were lived out. So let me say it again. Anger, fear, and sadness have to be lived. And only if they are lived, then you can develop out of that happiness. So dear friends, now look at the point of view what we have today. We try to reduce everything for the children, that they have no sadness, no fear, no anger. How can we develop happiness if we don't let the kid fear, anger, and have the feeling of anger, fear, and sadness? I needed many years to understand that anger, fear, and sadness are okay, and that you need us to develop happiness. When I'm angry, when I'm sad, when I have fears, that I'm allowed to have these feelings, and I don't have to feel bad for it. I don't have to feel bad if I am jealous. I don't have to feel bad when I am sad. We are focusing all on the point that everybody should be happy. We can't have a life where everybody always is happy. We have also to teach a child hardness and hardship. And we can't have just happy-going like life. We have to understand that. That is part of our nature. So let me bring it to a conclusion. We have to find the right measurement in relationship. I need to have enough energy for myself, but also have the view on others. And we learned today that we have positive aspect, that we look at encouragement, and we need to criticize not so loud, but to encourage people. We learn from the example of the bus driver that it's up to me how I create the atmosphere in my bus or at home. And we learned about the balance model, that I need to have 4 dimensions in life. And we learned that if I only put energy on body, then I am not reacting enough to the other aspects, and this vice versa. And at the end, we learned that there are 4 fundamental feelings, and that I need to be able also to live the ones which I'm scared of or I don't like so much, because that leads us to happiness. And we learned that a muscle has to be trained. A human being has to come to its limits also. I would like to close with one of the quotations of Mother Teresa, who says, we all can become there where we stand, peacemakers and carriers of reconciliation. I would love to finish with the following story. Stone and sand. 2 friends were walking throughout the desert. During some point of the journey, they had an argument, and one friend slapped the others one in the face. The one who got slapped was hurt, but without saying anything wrote in the sand, "Today my best friend slapped me in the face." They kept on walking, until they found an oasis where they decided to take a bath. The one who had been slapped got stuck in the mire and started drowning, but the friend saved him. After he recovered from the near drowning, he wrote on a stone, "Today my best friend saved my life." The friend who had slapped and saved his best friend asked him, "After I hurt you, you wrote in the sand and now you write on a stone. Why?" The other friend replied, "When someone hurts you, we should write it down in sand, where the wind of forgiveness can erase it already away. But when someone does something good for us, we must engrave it in stone, where no wind can ever erase it." Friends, thank you very much